given the address, for example, if we have 32 bit memory address, the address can be partitioned into two parts, which two? For a block, we can have lower bits will be the block offset because one block contains multiple bytes, and you need to figure out starting from which byte you are going to start your memory address. So we have the block offset. And the remaining higher bits will be the block address. And this is going to be the unique address, saying about one block. And furthermore, we talk about this block address composed of two parts. Which two?
Tag and index.
Lower bits will be the set index. Higher bits will be the tag. Okay. Last time I went through a very simple example. And now let's put more time. See another example about cache access. And in this slide, there is a question. We have now 64-bit address. It is a two-way set associative cache. The cache size is 128 KB. Block size is 16 byte. So pay attention now. Starting from now, if we say cache size is how many kilobyte or how many megabyte, it's only talking about the data part. Do you still remember tag array I showed last time? Now because you see we have the tag for the address, right? And when we access the cache, we need the tag part for tag comparison. We need this to uniquely identify this block so that for a cache, each data block, so we have data array and we have tag array. For each block, let's say this is one block. For each block in the cache, we have the corresponding tag part. Under this part, just record address, a portion of the block address, right? The higher portion of the block address. And this part is the real data. And in this example, when we say it is 128 KB, it's just talking about the data part. So starting from now, if we say cache size, for instance, 1 megabyte, it's just talking about the data part. We didn't consider about the tag, although it's also part of the cache. All right, so how to do the cache access given all this information? Actually, the question is about how many bits we need for offset, how many bits we need for set index, how many bits we need for tag, and how can we use these three to access the cache, or say to find the block in the cache. I give you maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Where is the attendance sheet now? Okay. Make sure you just spread to other students when you finish. ask you to do the exercise, make sure you really do it. Of course, especially for this example, you're gonna see a similar question in homework and a similar question in your midterm exam.
Can I get the sheet?
To start with. First, we are going to calculate the number of bit block offset, right? So the block size is 16B. So how many bits we need for block offset? How many bits? 2 to the power 4 equals 260. So that we need 4 bits for block offset. And what's next? Number of bits for set index, right? This is a two-way set associative cache, so that we need to first figure out how many sets we have. How many sets we have here? 4 sets? 4 sets? Do you remember the relation between the sets and the weight? Number of sets times number of ways equals to what? Number of blocks in the cache, right? So how to get the number of sets in this example? Depends on how many blocks you have, right? Because we know it is a two-way set associative cache. And how many blocks we have here? 128 KB over 16B, which is 2 to the power of 17. 2 to the power 4, 2 to the power 613. So how many bits we need for set? How many bits we need for set index? How many sets we have? 2 to the power 12, right? So that we have 12 bits for set index. Now how many bits we need for the tag? How many bits for the tag? Total number of bits we have for the address is 64. And then we have 4 bits of offset. We have 12 bits for set index. So how many bits we need for the tag? Just do the simple calculation. Okay, so now how to do the access. This is what I want to talk about in details. How to access the cache. Now you know this part is the set. So given address, the first thing we need to figure out is which set you can find the block, right? So first thing is you need to figure out the set. This set index can help you to index the specific set that you may possibly find the block. This is what we have learned about set associative cache. You can only put the block into a specific set. So the first thing is, for cache access, we have several steps. The first step is to index the set. Using the set index, we can index the set. Here, because the example says it is a two-way set associative cache, so I draw 2 ways here. This is a very general way to draw a cache. Although you know a cache physically, it is not organized like this, physically. But here is just drawing the for easy understanding, it's kind of logical way to draw a cache because it is easy to understand. This is, what is this? What is this? It is one set, right? If you have two ways, one set means you have two blocks, right? So we have two blocks, and of course, correspondingly, you will have two tag lines in the tag array. Questions? Okay. So when we start the cache access, the first thing is use the set index to index the specific set. And then you know you can only find the block in this set. What is next then?
Tag.
Now you got these two blocks, you got these two tags. What should we do next to identify the block? To know if you have a cache hit or cache miss. What's next?
Compare.
Next step is to do the tag comparison. So which part you're going to use for the tag comparison? This is the first step. Second step is this part, right? We have the higher bits, which are the tag. We are going to use the tag to compare with the tag of the first way. This is one comparison. And meanwhile, you will also do the comparison with the second way, which is this part. Questions? Okay, so if we got a hit, say we got a match here, what does it mean? If we have a match for the first way, it means the block here is the one you would like to access, right? You got a cache hit. Okay, what's next then? What's the next? Since you already found out the block, of course, use the offset to index the byte. You are going to start your access, and then you can have the data access. So the third step is use the offset here to give you, okay, starting from this byte, you are going to read data here. Because this is a 32-bit machine, so that you're going to read maybe 4 bytes. Okay? So this is the third step. Any questions? And of course, if you didn't get any matched tag here, it is a cache miss. Then you have to go to the lower level memory to get the data. All right, questions about the cache access? I have the figure shows here, which is the same figure shown here. So now you can see, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention about this valid bit. For each cache line, you can understand now we have the tag part, we have the data part, and we have one extra bit attached to here to each entry, or each cache line, or each cache block. It is called a valid bit. What is for? Valid bit just tells you if the data you saved in this entry is valid or not. If it's valid, it's 1. If it's not valid, it's 0. Okay? So this is the whole idea about cache access. And now let me change this question a little bit. What if I'm going to access a direct mapped cache? If I say everything is the same except I change this two-way set associative to direct mapped,
No index.
what will happen? What is the difference then? What is the difference? It will affect the offset. Offset will be the same. How about the set index? How about the tag? How many bits you need for sets then? How many bits you need for tag? Because it is direct mapped, right? Direct mapped, you're gonna have the same number of sets equals to the same number of blocks. So how many bits you need for set index? 13 bits, right? Because total you have 2 to the power of 13 blocks in the cache. And then how many bits you need for tag? How many bits you have them? In this case, you see it says 48 for two-way set associative. Then how many bits you need for direct map for tag? Use the same equation here, right? It's gonna be 47. So pay attention. The number of bits for the tag and the number of bits for the set index is changed in this case because you use the direct map. The number of sets is different. So the number of bits for tag is also changed. And what if I change to fully associative cache in this case? By the way, sorry, for direct map, you only have one way, right? And then the comparison here is just one. You just compare with one tag. And if it's match, it's a hit. Yes?
So large valid bit.
Uh-huh. Valid bit is just talking about if the entry is valid
Right.
or not.
So when we count the bit, do we?
No, valid bit is not considered. We just consider exactly this part, the data part. This part. Of course, later when I introduce more about cache, we're gonna attach more and more bits into
The last year?
So those parts will not be considered as the cache size either. All right. Back to my question. If I change this question to all the other are the same and I change to fully associative cache, how many bits we have for set index? How many bits? What?
0.
If it's fully associative, how many sets we have?
One set.
It's just one set, right? One set means 0 bit for set index. So keep that in mind. For fully associative cache, you only have tag and block offset. We do not have set index because you only have one set. No need for set index. So how many bits you have for tag then? You're gonna have 64 minus 4, which will be 60 bits for the tag. And whenever you do the comparison, the tag comparison, you have to compare with every block here, every tag attached to the block. It's gonna be a lot of comparison. So for fully associative cache, you will never see a fully associative cache with that many blocks. It's gonna be very complicated if you wanna compare with every tag. Okay. Any question here so far for the cache access? All right. And there is one important feature about cache now. I want to emphasize that cache is pure hardware control. Cache is pure hardware control. What does this mean? Pure hardware control. It means OS, all compiler, all programmer, will they be able to see the cache? No, because it's purely hardware controlled. OS will not have any control about cache, neither compiler, neither programmer. So for the memory hierarchy, from the programmer's perspective, or even from the OS perspective, they will never see a cache in the memory hierarchy. For example, for the programmer, if you are doing assembling and programming, you will only see the register, you will only see memory, you will never see cache. So this is an important feature about cache. It's pure hardware controlled. So how to access the cache is purely determined by the cache organization. You can have the same 32 bits, but you can have totally different cache access if you have a different cache organization. That's why I keep asking you, what if I change this to direct mapped cache? I change this to fully associative cache. How are you going to access the cache? It can be totally different. And all the software, they do not have any idea about this. It's only controlled by the hardware. All right, so this is the second question about the cache design, cache access. The third question for the cache design is which block should be replaced on the miss. This is in the case that if we have the cache is full, then when you have a new block you need to put into the cache, of course you need to find a place to put it. For direct map cache, it's very easy. Why? Of course, you can only replace the only block in the set, right? Whereas with direct map, you only have one block in the set. So, of course, if you want to replace the block, you can only replace that only block in the set. So it's pretty easy for direct map. But if it's for the set associative or fully associative, take this as the example, this two-way set associative cache. And whenever I would like to place a block into this set, into this specific set, because this set index of the address tells you if you want to put this block into the cache, you have to put it into this specific set. And then you face two options here. Which one you should replace? Which one you should replace? We have several options here. The first option is very easy, random, which means randomly pick one to replace. It's very easy to implement. And we have another more complicated one. It's called LRU, least recently used. Is this your first time heard about LRU? Yes. Okay. Least recently used means if the block has not been accessed for quite a long time, what kind of hints you can get from it? If it has not been used for a long time, depending on the temporal locality you have learned so far. For example, let me give you an example. Say this block is being accessed at clock cycle number 100. This one is accessed being at clock cycle 2000. Which block you choose to replace?
Well, which clock
2000?
cycle are we on?
100. The current time, no matter the current time, whatever it is, it must be larger than 2000, right?
Oh.
So,
So
this
100?
This one is recently accessed. This one hasn't been accessed for quite a long time. Based on the temporal locality, which one has a higher possibility to be accessed in the future? Which one? Which one has a higher possibility to be accessed based on the temporal locality you have learned? Temporal locality means if the block is accessed, it has a high possibility to be accessed in the very near future, right? So which one has a higher possibility to be accessed in the near future? This one, the 2001, right? So which one you should replace? We should replace the 100. This is the idea of least recently used replacement policy. We're gonna replace the one which is least recently accessed or recently used. So this one, because it leverages the temporal locality, so it can bring lower cache miss rate. You can see from the table we have the miss rate comparison. For two-way set associative cache, if we use random replacement and LRU replacement, can see LRU has a lower miss rate. This is because it leverages the temporal locality. But for LRU, although it has a lower miss rate, but it's harder to implement. Why? Because you have to kind of monitor when this block has been accessed, right? You have to kind of compare which one is least recently used. You need some extra hardware support for this. So it is harder to implement, but it has a lower miss rate. Actually, I would like to introduce another replacement policy called MRU. You know what is LRU now? Can you guess what is MRU? Most recently used. So most recently used looks like it totally violates the temporal locality, but it is very helpful when we have a very big array access, where the program includes a very big array, and you are going to do the repeat access of the array. For example, if we have an array like this, A, B, C, D, E, and you are going to do the repeat access or cycling access for this array, This is my assumption. And assume that you only have 4 blocks in your cache. If we use LRU, how many misses we will have? If we use MRU, how many misses we will have? Did you get my question? Say we have array access like this. A, B, C, D, E. A, B, C, D, E. Each one represents 1 block. Okay? And now we have only say 4 blocks in the cache. This is the cache. We only have 4 entries in the cache. And now let's see if we use LRU, how many misses we will have if we have this kind of sequence, access sequence.
1 out of 5.
How many misses we will have? At the very beginning, assume the cache is empty, so that if we want to have A, it's a miss, right? And then you put A here. And if we want to access B, B is a miss, C is a miss, D is a miss. Okay, and then the cache is full. Assume this is a fully associated cache to make it easy to understand. And now we are going to access E. Which one you are going to replace?
A.
A is going to be replaced. Okay, and it is another cache miss here, right? And now you need to access A. You
Miss.
just replaced it. And now when are you going to replace? Which one is going to be replaced? B is going to
miss
be
on everything.
replaced. And then you got another
terrible.
miss for A, of course. You have another. And then when you want to access B, which one is going to replace? C is to be replaced. And you want to see D is going to be replaced. So actually, we are going to have all misses for these 10 blocks, right? What if we use MRU? What if we use MRU? How many misses we will have? 2 misses. So if we have MRU, of course, the first 4, you will have the misses as well to fill up the cache, right? And then we have D. We want to access D. Which one is going to be replaced? D is replaced. Of course, we have another miss for E. And now you want to access A, it's a hit. You want a B, B is a hit. You want a C, C is a hit. And you want a D.
Please C.
Which one is going to be replaced? C is replaced. So we have here. And then you want an E. E is here. So you see, in this interesting case, especially if you have this very big array and you are doing this cycling accessing, MRU is much better. For the array that is huge, that the cache is unable to hold all these arrays. This happens very frequent nowadays because nowadays we are in the big data era. You know, we always have very big array we need to process, and it's very hard for the cache to hold all the data you need for the program. So MRU actually these days is becoming even better than LRU. But again, it really depends on what kind of program it is. Depends on the access pattern. We say this kind of cycling accessing is one cache access pattern. Depends on what kind of access pattern you have. Sometimes we may choose LRU, sometimes we may choose MRU, and sometimes we may have LRU plus MRU. So regarding the cache replacement policy, too many policies here, too many policies. Even nowadays, although the cache design is pretty mature these days, but nowadays there are still a lot of researchers working on how to improve the cache design, I would say how to reduce the cache miss rate by coming up a very good replacement policy. So what I mentioned here today are just some very basic ones. All right, this is about the cache replacement. The fourth question we have for the cache design is, what happens on the write? Okay, before I talk about what happens on the write, let's first take a look about what happens on the read. I still have the figure here, and you can see this is 3 steps for the cache access. These 3 steps looks like they have to be done sequentially, right? We have to do this sequentially. But let me ask you a question. If we do a read operation, assume this is a read access. If we do a read, means you would like to read the data. You are not going to modify the data in the block. You just read it. Is there any possibility to overlap any of these steps? Or say, is that possible to parallelize any of these steps? Of course, we would like to reduce the cache access time. Right? This is regarding about the performance again, regarding the how to reduce the CPU time. So if we are doing the read operation, is that possible to parallelize any of these 3 steps? Is that possible? Think about it. It's an interesting question. So the case is, if we just need to read the data, it doesn't matter if you read some wrong data, right? Because you didn't change the data in the cache. Even though you read some wrong data, but when you figure it out this is wrong, you can just discard the data, drop the data. It doesn't cause any bad outcome, bad results, right? So if that is the case,
Right.
can we parallelize the second and the third step? Can we parallelize these 2? Of course, at the very beginning, we need to
Won't
figure
be a
out which
cache mess.
set you will be able to find the block. Once you know this is the set you need, actually, you can use this offset to start to index the starting bytes of the block. Okay? And then, before we even know which block is the hit one, or say none of this is the correct one, but you can already start the data access. This is the data access. You already start to read the data. Okay. And meanwhile, we can do the tag comparison. And the result of the tag comparison, go to some combination logic. It tells you, okay, if you have a hit or not. If you have a hit, it can tell you, this is a max, which data is the correct data for you to get. I guess most of you cannot see this part.
But yet you still do.
Let me draw it to the upper part.
Okay. I kind of do now, but that would require extra resources to do.
So what will happen is,
So you're reading data from I guess.
You have to compare anyway.
What?
You have to compare in the end to check if it's right.
Through the tag array. So what you're saying that instead of doing the operation of indexing the set, that comparing the tag, then find the
so
right
this
tag,
is
then
the
read the correct
entire
data.
address. Okay, this
You
is
do
the
tag
just
comparison
talk
and
about the
reading the data
third
at the same
step
time.
about data access. The whole idea is we would like to parallelize the second step with the third step. So when we start the tag comparison, the outcome, let me draw it with a different color. So the outcome goes through some combination logic here, and it will tell you if this is a hit or not. If it is a hit, it will tell you which one is the correct block you should access. Meanwhile, we can use the block offset to index the byte you are going to access
Isn't
if
it
you have
also
a
index
cache
the
hit.
first byte?
So the data you
Offset
read,
index, the first line.
the data you read
How do you
will
know
be
which
sending
route to
through
go?
a max. And what is the outcome of this, Max?
Uh,
First, you
the-
have the correct one to select
The correct data.
the correct input, right? So the output will be the data to register, right? This is pay attention. I'm just talking about read operation. So now you can see, we kind of parallelize these two. Of course, you reduce the total read time. Can we do the same thing for write? If you are going to do the write, can we do the same thing? No, what is the reason? Because if you would like to write, you already modify the data here, right? If you modify the data, but later you find out this is not correct, then you have no chance to recover it. So for write operation, we cannot do this, but for read operation, even though you got the wrong data, you can just discard it. You still get the correct data, you send it back to the register. So this is why here in the slide I say write takes longer time than read, because read you can parallelize the tag comparison with the data access, but for write we cannot. So what can we do for write then? Try to do some performance optimization or improvement about the write. We have two kinds of write policy. Okay, two write policy. One is that called write through, another one is called write back. Pay attention. I give you a lot of information today. Actually, they are all very important because all these are the basic cache design. You need to understand all this for all the following stuff of the whole semester. After I finish the introduction about cache design, I'm going to talk about cache optimization. I'm going to use this kind of a SAT, a way, and the tag comparison, and data access, and also write policy. I'm going to use all these terminologies a lot. Make sure you really understand, otherwise you're going to have a hard time in the remaining of the semester. Okay. Excuse me. About write, we have two policies. First one is called write through. What does it mean? This is the cache. And this is the memory.
Right through the hierarchy.
Assume that this is the register. And we would like to write the value into the block. This is a write operation. Pay attention, I'm talking about write. So, write through means whenever you have a write to the cache, you will also write it to the lower level memory. So, whenever you write, you update part of this block, you will also write this to the lower level memory. This is called write through. You will write through the whole memory hierarchy, okay? And write through can cause some problem. Let me say in this way. Let me first finish the write back, and then you're gonna see the difference between this write through and write back. This is write through, which means the data in memory and the data in cache, they are synchronized. First, you modify the lower level memory as well. For write back, it's doing the opposite way. Write back means whenever you write to the block, you will never write back to the memory. Okay? You just modify the cache so that the data in the cache and data in the memory, they are asynchronized. So memory may have the old data because for write back, you didn't really update the memory. Okay. When are you going to update the memory? When this block is going to be replaced. So when the block is still here, the data is still saved in the cache. So even though it is not synchronized with the memory, it is still okay because we still have the data here. But when the data is going to be evicted, or say the block is going to be evicted, it is really the time for you to make sure the data is also saved in the memory. So So that is the time we are going to write back to the memory. This is the idea of write back. Let's do a comparison between write through and write back. Regarding the, actually I have the question here already. Which one will do the repeated writes on the same block, make it to the lower level? In other words, for example, you have one write, modify this part of the block, and you have another write, modify this part of the block. Which policy will cause the repeated access to the lower level memory? Which one? Write through cache, right? Write through means whenever you have some modification, you need to also modify the lower level. So write through will cause the repeated access or repeated write to the memory, even though you are modifying the same block. How about write back? Write back, do you need to do the repeated write to the memory if you do the same block?
No.
We do not need, right? Because anyway, the block is still here. The data is still saved here. It's saved. So we do not need any write back to the memory. So regarding the memory bandwidth utilization, or say efficiency of using the memory bandwidth, which one is better?
Right back.
Write back is better, right? This is the benefit of write back. How about readmes produce writes? This is the another comparison I put here. Do readmes produce writes? Let's first see write through. What is readmes? Readmes means, for example, now you have block A here, and with the like to read block B, the like to read block B, and it is not in the cache, we say it is a readmes, right? If you have a readmes for B, what shall we do?
Bring the data.
You need to go to the lower level memory and put it back into the cache, right? Since whenever you have a readmes, we need to fetch the block and save it into the cache. Okay. And when you put B here, probably the cache is full. You need to replace one block. And if it is a write through, we don't need to consider about if the block say this is B, and it is going to replace C. And if for write through, we don't need to really care about if the block data in C is synchronized with memory or not. Because the data is always synchronized. So if you have a readmes, you load B, you can just easily drop C, replace C. But what if it is a write back cache? If it is a write back cache, it is possible that the data you have in C is not synchronized with the data in memory. If that is the case, what should we do? We just talked about the policy of write back is, when are you going to write the data back to memory? When it's going to be replaced, right? When it's going to be dropped. So in this case, if C has the asynchronized data with memory, then we have to do a write operation to the memory. So that is why I put it here. Do readmes produce writes? For write back, it is possible. Of course, the block you are going to replace may be not synchronized with the memory. And so that for the write back cache, we need an extra bit for each entry. That bit is called 30 bit. For write back cache, for write through, we don't need it. Write through, we just need a valid bit to say if this block is valid or not. But for if we say this is a write back cache, we have of course one bit is valid bit, and we have another bit is called 30 bit. When the 30 bit is 1, what does that mean? It means
That block can be
the
replaced.
data is asynchronized with memory. And whenever you are going to replace this block, you have to write it back or update the memory. If the 30 bit is 0, it means the data is synchronized with memory, and we say it is clean. If it is clean, then you can just drop it, evict it. No need for the write. So So this is the design for write back. Any question about write through and the write back? Which one is harder to implement?
Right back.
Write back, right? Because you need more support for the dirty bit, this stuff. Make sure understand this too, because we're gonna talk about this a lot in the following lectures. Okay, questions? All right. Here, when we talk about write policy, write through, write back, we are just talking about if the data block you're going to write is already in the cache. What if you have a write miss?
Oh.
Pay attention. Now, we need to kind of separate the things about.
Oh, right.
We can have read miss, we can have write miss. And about write hit, we talk about write through cache or write back cache. Now let's see, if you have a write miss, what shall we do? Back to this figure again. For example, we would like to write A, write block A. And A is not in the cache. What shall we do?
Fetch it.
Go to the lower level memory, fetch it back into the cache, and write it here. This is what you're gonna assume, right? Actually, we do have another option, which is do not fetch it back to the cache. Directly update A here. For these two ways, we have another name. So for write miss, we do have two different policies. One is called write allocate. Another one is called non-write allocate. So when you have a write miss, you decide to directly update the lower level memory. You do not fetch the block to the cache. It is non-write allocate. Whenever you have a write miss, you decide to fetch the block also back to the cache. This is called write allocate. Okay? I know it's complicated. Even for write miss, we have two policies. Write hit, we have two policies. And for a cache design, we can have a combination between these four designs. What does that mean? You can have a write allocate, write through cache, write allocate, write back cache, non-write allocate, write through, non-write allocate, write back. We can have these four kinds of cache designs. I'm not going to throw out all the details today. Later, right before the midterm exam, I'm going to talk about how to calculate the CPU time, or say the memory access, or say the memory store cycles for these four different cache designs. No details today, so you can have a deep breath, enjoy today, but later, maybe several weeks later, you're gonna see the harder part. All right, let's move on. So after talking about the four questions about the cache design, next very common cache design we have is to have the separated instruction and data cache. Do you still remember the 5 pipeline stage? We talk about 5 pipeline stage? Fetch, decode, execution, memory, and the write back. So fetch, decode, execution, memory, right back. And I remember when I introduced these 5 stages, I talked about during the instruction fetch, we have a instruction memory. Do you remember? And during the memory stage, we have a data memory. Remember? We have the split instruction memory and the data memory. What is the reason? I didn't really mention in details. What is the reason? Why do we need to have a split instruction memory and the data memory? And now because you have learned about cache, actually this part should be instruction cache, right? Whenever you're going to access the memory, first is go to the cache, so that we're gonna have the split instruction cache and the data cache. So the real story is like this. We have the split instruction and data cache, but we have a unified memory. You will never see an instruction memory and a data memory. Memory is always unified. So pay attention, starting from now, we will not have instruction memory. We just have instruction cache and the data cache. What is the reason to have that? It's because of the structure hazard. Do you still remember the 3 pipeline hazards? What is the structure hazard? Structure hazard happens when you have the resource conflict, or say the resource contention, or structure contention. For example, if we have loading instruction here, and this is the clock cycle number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the pipeline, we can see it's doing this, and let's assume this is load the instruction I, and then we have instruction I plus 1, instruction I plus 2, instruction I plus 3. It's going to be fetch, decode, execution. Assume that there is no other pipeline hazard. Okay, let's see. For instruction I plus 3, if we have a unified cache, can we do fetch in cycle 4? Is that possible? If we have a unified cache, which means you have instruction and data in the same cache, can we do the instruction fetch in cycle 4? No. This is because memory stage for load, it is accessing the cache. If you have a unified cache, of course, this resource is occupied. So you cannot do instruction fetch. You have to wait until cycle 5, you can start the fetch. So this is called a structure hazard. Structure hazard causes the pipeline stall. Yeah, this is the bulletin I will put it here. When a load or store instruction is executed, the processor will simultaneously request both data and instruction, which will cause the structure hazard. So a good way to do this is to handle this structure hazard is to have the split cache. We have the instruction cache, just hold instruction. We have the data cache, just hold data. If that is the case, then cycle 4, load the instruction, just access the data, and this instruction just access the instruction cache. They are splitted, so no structure hazard. Okay, now let me ask you a question. For instruction cache and data cache, which one has lower miss rate? Which one has lower miss rate? Instruction. Why? Because of what? Huh? Locality again, right? It's about the locality. For the instruction cache, you're gonna save the instructions one by one, right? Like this is instruction I. Next 4 bytes will be instruction I plus 1. Next 4 bytes instruction I plus 2. Assume this is a whole block. and then you have another block here, blah, blah, blah. The safety instructions sequentially, right? So you have their spatial locality. Of course, it's kind of, when you finish the instruction I, you're gonna do next instruction and next instruction. Because of this spatial locality, so instruction cache has a much lower miss rate than data locality. Data cache. Okay. Now let's see. In this slide, I introduce a new way to evaluate the cache performance. We call it is the average memory access time. And sometimes we put AMAT in short. Average memory access time. This is another very important equation. You're going to use it very frequently again. Am I going too fast or too much information? AMAT. Before we calculate the average memory access time, we know it can be memory access time divided by what? Total number of memory accesses, right? Total number of memory references. Okay, so the question is how to get the overall memory access time. This is, let me just use this figure. The overall memory access time. This is cache again. So when we do the cache access, only two possibilities, either hit or miss. If it is a hit, we can just finish it in this short iteration, right? If it is a hit, you go to the cache. If it is a hit, you get your data. Assume this is a read operation, okay? And we call this is the hit time. It's pretty short. If it is a cache miss, what will happen? You first go to the cache. It's a miss, so you go to lower level. Whatever, maybe it's another miss again, you go to disk, and then you have an even larger loop here, and you get the data, you put it back into the cache, okay? What is this part? Let me use another color. What is this part? We have a name for it. Miss penalty, right? This part is called miss penalty. And then you will have the data sent back to the register. Okay? So if we have a miss, how long is the whole loop here? If we have a miss, how long is the whole loop? It should be hit time plus miss penalty. If it is a hit, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just reserve hit time. Okay. Then how to calculate the overall memory access time? How to calculate the overall memory access time? Hit time times 1 minus miss rate, right? Oh, sorry, number of misses, or say number of hits. Let me make it one step earlier. So overall memory access time equals to number of hits times hit time plus number of misses times miss penalty plus hit time, or hit time plus miss penalty. Any questions here? This is the overall memory access time, right? And now we are going to calculate AMAT. So we're gonna have all this divided by number of memory references. Okay, what do you get then? Let's first see here. Number of hits times heat time plus number of misses times heat time. What is this part? It's just the number of memory references times heat time, right? And of course, this part can be cancelled with the bottom part, so that we have equals to here heat time plus number of misses times miss penalty over number of memory references. And what is this part? What is this? Number of misses over number of memory references. It is miss rate. So AMAT is heat time plus miss rate times miss penalty. Questions? So pay attention to that. No matter it's a hit or it is a miss, you always have to include the hit time into your memory access. Of course, it is a part of your whole miss loop here as well. All right. This is a very important equation for AMAT. All right. Can you tell me what is the equation, or say the relation between AMAT and the CPU time? Do you still remember the CPU time, the equation of CPU time? What is CPU time? CPU time. IC times CI times clock cycle time plus IC times what? Huh? IC times what? You cannot remember? This rate times what? Percentage of memory references times miss penalty. So miss penalty here, if it is in cycles, if the unit is in cycles, you still have to times the clock cycle time. Questions? Okay. Then what is the relation between AMAT and CPU time? They have this common part here, right? Miss rate times miss penalty. Miss rate times miss penalty. So that AMAT minus heat time, we can replace here. AMAT minus heat time times the percentage of memory references times the IC times the clock cycle time plus this part is CPU time. Okay? Sometimes there are going to be some question like, given AMAT, how to calculate CPU time. This is one possible way to calculate it. All right, now let's see the example. By the way, because we have the AMAT here now, actually AMAT is used more frequently than CPU time to evaluate the cache performance. So actually we are going to use AMAT, use this equation even more frequently than CPU time starting from now. Higher AMAT means better or worse performance? Higher AMAT means worse cache performance. Okay, so we can use this AMAT to compare different cache designs. And this slide shows you an example. is asking about actually comparing two different cache designs, which one has a better AMAT, average memory access time. But the question, first the sub-question is asking about the overall miss rate. We just talked about unified cache and the split cache. So this example or this question is talking about two different cache designs. One is split, another one is unified. So if we have a 16 KB instruction cache and a 16 KB data cache, this is a split design. Another design is we have a unified 32 KB. And given this information, figure out which design has a lower miss rate. And based on the miss rate, you are going to calculate the AMAT for these two designs. Of course, in order to calculate AMAT, you need some extra information. For example, heat time is 1 cycle, miss penalty is 200 cycles. And if you have the unified cache, of course, you're gonna have the structure hazard. If you have the load or store instruction using the memory, you're gonna have the structure hazard with the fetch, instruction fetch. So that in that case, it's gonna take 1 extra cycle on the unified cache, and assume 36% of the instructions, they are data transfer instructions. Given this information, it's asking about which one has a lower AMAT, average memory access time. Let me check the time here. Maybe we can first do the first question. Which one has a lower miss rate? Unified one or the split one? Let's first do the, what is the miss rate for the unified cache here, given the information. Let's do one step by step, starting from the easy case. This table tells you how many misses you're gonna have per 1K instructions for different cache design. So what is the miss rate for a unified 32 KB cache?
43.3.
42.3? 43.3? What is that? 43.3 is what? You have 43.3 misses per 1,000 instructions. The question is asking miss rate. What is miss rate? I already said if I didn't say anything about miss rate, it means miss rate per instruction. If I didn't say anything about miss rate, it is miss rate per reference. See? Miss rate per reference. So, but the table here just tells you the miss rate per instruction. Number of misses per 1,000 instructions. How to get the miss rate per reference for this 32 KB cache. Last lecture, I already give you an equation about between miss rate per instruction and the miss rate. What is that relation? What is the relation there? Miss rate per instruction, we can write it as number of misses over IC. And we can add this memory references, number of memory references, number of memory references. And this part is miss rate. This part is percentage of memory references. Okay? Given this equation, what is the miss rate for this unified 32 KB cache? What is the answer? All these are important equations, okay? I know I give you a lot of information these 2-3 lectures, but they are all very useful and important for your following study for the whole semester. What is the miss rate. We have the miss rate per instruction is 43.3 over 1,000. Okay? And then divided by the percentage of memory references, we will be able to get the miss rate. So what is the percentage of memory references here? What is the percentage of memory references?
136.
136, that's right. Because it says 36% of instructions are data transfer instructions. So percentage of memory references here, you have 1 for instruction memory access. You have 36% for data memory access. So total is 136% memory references. Remember, this is also what I told you last time. The percentage of memory references is always higher or equal to 1. Okay? So given this, you will be able to find out the miss rate for the 32 KB. How to calculate the miss rate for the split cache? This is a little bit harder. Because even though you have the split cache, you still have to calculate the overall miss rate for this design. You still consider this 16 KB instruction and 16 KB data, they are together. What is the overall miss rate for these two together? How to do that? I don't have enough time today. Maybe leave this as a homework for you to do it, and I'm gonna talk about it on Wednesday. Homework due on Wednesday. So see you next time. And next Wednesday, we'll be giving you some hints for midterm exam. Okay, on top of the source register. Right? Now you are ready. Use this to do the exclusive OR and build the link between this and the weight. So which one is more accurate for the weight prediction? These two techniques, which one is more accurate? Which one is more accurate? This one is more accurate, right? Because how do you calculate the address? You add these two together, you can calculate the address. And now you use these two to predict the weight. So this method is more accurate. But when are you able to get the data? Only when you finish the decode stage, right? Remember fetch, decode, execution, memory write back? You only get this after you finish the decode stage. And when are you going to start memory access? Once you finish the the execution stage, you will do the memory access. So this information, you get it maybe too late, which means it's not early enough for you to do the prediction. PC, you know it in the fetch stage. Once you start the fetch, you have the PC. So that this one, you can get the weight prediction earlier. This one, you get the prediction more accurate. So two different designs, both of them have pros and cons. Okay, next time I'm going to talk about how can we predict. See you Monday.
See ya.
What is PC?
Program counter. It is just basically the address to the next instruction.